All right, folks, I'm here with Walter Fajet, current councilman and candidate for mayor of Miami Springs. Walter, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. How did you say my name there?
Walter Fajet.
Okay, you got it right.
I said it right. Okay.
You did get it right.
I thought I was.
All right.
Sometimes I hear some other folks not saying it the right way. It's Walter Fajet.
You got it.
And Walter, you're running for mayor.
Yeah.
And so let's let the Miami Springs audience get to know you a little bit more.
Sure.
Now, you're not an unknown. I think most residents will know who you are. But for those who are maybe getting to know you for the first time, tell us a little bit about your background and growing up here in Miami Springs.
Sure. Grew up here in the Springs. Lived first on Pocatello, then on Thrush. My mom taught at Springview for 30 years. She taught Spanish there. And I went to Springview. I went to Miami Springs Junior High when it was called the Junior High. I graduated from Miami Springs, class of 91.
You were probably one of the last ones to graduate from. It's changed right after you, right? From junior high to middle school.
Yeah, I think so. At that time,
Right.
You would go to 6th grade in elementary school. And
Right.
then you would do 7th and 8th at the junior high, and then you would do 9th.
Yeah.
So then I went to the high school and graduated from Miami Springs. And then I became a teacher.
Okay, I gotta ask, class of?
91.
Class of 91, okay.
Class of 91. So I became a teacher, and I actually started as a pool sub at Miami Springs Senior High. And then I was a teacher at Miami Springs Senior High. I taught language arts and reading. And that's where I met my wife when I was a first year teacher. And then I left and I worked at the University of Miami School of Education for a number of years, and then came back as a reading coach. I was a reading coach, I think like 2007 to 2009 in Miami Springs Senior High. And then I actually I went to a different. I became a reading coach at 3 different elementary schools at Emerson, Flagami, and Sylvania Heights, and at West Miami Middle. And then I got pulled over to the district as a curriculum support specialist, and eventually made my way up to being a language arts supervisor. And I was in the ETO in the lowest performing schools. And then I got the opportunity to become the principal at AIE Charter School, where my son had started in 2011 as in the first kindergarten class of the first year that the school was open.
Wow.
So I was a parent there until he was going into 6th grade. That's when they pulled me over because I had high school experience. So I've been at AIE, and then obviously, throughout that entire time, service has always been a big thing for me, right? And I've been involved, and I'm involved in the Rotary, and my wife is actually the president-elect, the incoming president of the Rotary, and she's involved in the Women's Club, and I help the Women's Club a great deal.
And you participated this year with the jail and bail activities here?
I did the jail.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to events at Miami Springs, you're gonna see me for sure. I'm involved in a lot. We did the Taste of Springs the other day, which is Women's Club, and we got So this is a wonderful community. I grew up here. It's my home. I get to serve this community in my day job as a principal. I get to serve this community on the council. I've been on the council since 2020. I feel like so I'm going into my last term.
So you're the COVID council.
Yeah. So when Mara Zapata stepped down to run for school board, I ran against 3 people during COVID.
Wow.
So I've been on since 2020. That was back when it was Billy Bain was the mayor. And William Alonso was the city manager.
Right.
But I've served all this time, and I've got one more term to go.
Right.
And I really feel like we've made a big difference. We have a new city manager. There's been a lot of change. We have a new city manager.
Right.
We have a new public works director.
Yep.
It was great. We have a new golf director. We have a new city manager.
Yes.
It's no longer our old city manager. And I think that we have a very positive trajectory. And I feel like I want that to continue.
Right.
And so this last term of mine, I want to ensure that those things continue in that positive trajectory.
So we're going to get into a lot of politics in just a second, but I do want to ask you about, go back to growing up here in Springs, and tell me about what you enjoyed most as a kid growing up here in Springs.
The river cities.
Right,
the old alligator wrestling pins. I remember like the BMX. They'd have the ramps.
Oh, that's
and
right.
And the BMX guys would be doing all kinds of tricks.
Do the stunt. You just brought an old memory. Oh my God, you're right.
Unlocked.
You're
memory
right.
unlocked.
The BMX tricks and all that.
And I remember they were giving away like painters hats, and I would like have them on like backwards. Checkerboard painters hats, all kinds of crazy things. Like
Gosh.
that's the Wayback Machine. But yeah,
I'm assuming you've enjoyed, riding bikes and going up and down everywhere here in Springs and all that sort of thing.
Absolutely. I mean, we've got beautiful walking paths.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful city. I like to say that like when you look on Google Maps,
Right.
it looks like a little green, the triangular emerald in Google Maps, right? It's just like surrounded by concrete. So yeah, that's why the tree canopy is so important. But I love this community and I love serving it. I love giving back. That's just part of our family that we like to do. We're servant leaders.
And as a parent, I'm not as a councilman necessarily, but as a parent and raising your family here in Miami Springs, what do you appreciate now most as a parent?
As a parent, I mean, obviously, just having this kind of community, right? Like my son, was in Little League.
Yeah.
He went to Grace Lutheran Pre-K.
Uh-huh.
He was in kindergarten here at AIE, but he played baseball here. He was on some district championship teams. That was before Fred. But yeah, like him growing up here, playing at the rec, all the same kind of things. He's a big fisherman.
Okay.
Right? And anybody, if you've got anglers in Miami Springs that grow up in Miami Springs, they learn all the lakes, like, they know where everything is at. Like, that's a whole you want to go way back, Bashir. Tom wrecked an Aquarius rods, okay, where you could get the haircut and my brother and Robert grew up together. So there's an angling history also here in Miami Springs, and my son is a big angler. He loves fishing, so he knows all the lakes,
all the good spots to catch fish.
Ludlam. I mean, that's a wonderful community, obviously, that needs to be preserved.
All right, so you've been serving on council now for you're currently in your third term. What got you into to run? What was it that drove you to run at the time?
Back then?
Yeah.
So I had always kind of been like a geek. So it all started, right? So when I was in Boy Scouts, for a time, the scout leaders within the scouts, like Buddy Dewhurst was one of them, and Carl Oden and Thad Ofkerich were the older leaders in Troop 425 at the time. And Buddy's dad was Buck Dewhurst.
Okay.
And at that time, for a merit badge, he made us go to a council meeting, and his brother Jack was the mayor. Jack Dewhurst.
There we
was
go.
the mayor.
I know that Dewhurst name.
Yeah. And so I don't know. I kind of like geek out on going to that. I mean, I didn't from them, but I remember as a kid going back a bunch of times because I thought it was interesting. Yeah. And then I remember after high school, I would go to the meetings, and a buddy and I would go and geek out and talk about everything that was going on. I was one of those people that was in the council chambers a lot, and never considered running.
Right.
Until one day, I had a conversation with a couple people, and they're like, "Hey, what did you know? Like, you're here, right?
Yeah.
You know the issues because you kind of follow it because you geek out to this stuff. So that's why I ran in 2020.
So you got the trifecta, right? You live here, you work here, you play here, and you serve here, right?
Play, right?
Live, play, work, and serve,
Yeah.
all in the one community.
Yeah.
So with this election, obviously, probably if you wanted to stay as a council member, if you just would have run for re-election, probably good chance that would have been a slam dunk. You would have easily been re-elected as council, but you decided, you know what, I want to run for mayor. Tell us a little bit more about that decision.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it really is about looking at the trajectory, right? Like, I'm fond of saying that you don't have to be sick to get better, right? Miami Springs is great. You could be great, but you could always be better. And when I look at the trajectory from when we started in 2020 during COVID, when 36th Street was going on, and all the things that we did. And then transitioning from getting a new city manager who's brought a fresh set of eyes.
Yeah.
I think that there were a lot of things that were being done just because that's how it was always done. Right. And I think that we've got a dynamic, young but experienced city manager, and he's made some great hires. We have a new police chief who's outstanding. I feel like the trajectory arrow is going up, and that's something that I want to preserve because I like the way I like what I see in terms of the progress that we're making.
Yeah, there's been a lot of positive feedback that I'm getting from the community in terms of the city manager, definitely the new police chief. So a lot of good things going on.
Yeah.
What for you become mayor? What are some of your top priorities?
So everybody, it's funny because when you go to the meet the candidates event, so everybody has the same, like, do something about 36th Street. Like,
right.
So everybody has the same. It's what you're going to do about 36th Street.
Right.
But I think sensible development. I think we need to have a public debate about what we want our vision to be on 36th Street.
Right.
I think that's important. Public safety is always an underlying thing that if you don't have it on the front burner, like
right.
that's when things happen. So I think public safety is important. I think funding the police and that can, I think that a lot of people feel like we need to preserve, as somebody who grew up here, right?
Right.
You remember the old days of Mazzone.
Oh yeah.
And you couldn't say, like I remember having friends from Hialeah. I was like, I'm not going to drive into there. I'm going to get a ticket. I think that there are some things like that you want to go back to that, and I think that we've started that with. I think there's more active policing.
Yeah.
So I'm very pleased.
It definitely looks and feels that way, right?
It does, and I think that they're promoting the things that I think that the reality and perception can be two things, and I think there could be a reality that there's more speeding, and it could also be a perception, and I think that we needed to start promoting the things that we were doing so that people could see. I think both those things can be true at the same time.
Yeah.
So
what else is kind of top of your agenda as you become mayor?
Yeah, sure. So like the tree canopy, we lost our Tree City USA designation after a number of years, and we have to give more attention to that. People talk about what are you going to do about the tree canopy. I think that's a great first step. We had been at Tree City USA for a number of years. You know this. We've talked about.
Oh
it.
yes.
We've talked about this because you reported on it, right?
Yes, sir.
You reported that we had missed a deadline.
Yes.
Right, and then it looked like we had come back because you know how cumbersome it is. Sorry to point at the camera.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. I'm right here.
I'm having a conversation with you. Nasser.
Yeah.
You noticed that we had missed a deadline on a Tree City USA, and then we were back. And if you go on the Tree City USA, you know how cumbersome it is because you're on the list, but it's really on a previous year's body of work.
Right.
And then I because you reported on that, I called Tree City USA. They put me in touch with the forestry guy, the head of forestry for the state of Florida, a really good guy. And he got me a login. I was able to go in and see that we had missed the deadline, and then we had gotten back on it, and then we had missed it again. So we missed like 2 out of the last 3 years.
Right.
I think that we got spoiled a lot because we used to have Tom Nash as our public works director.
Right.
And he was an arborist, right? So that was important to him.
Right.
But also you don't have to be an arborist to not miss a deadline. Right? So I think I've been triple assured by our city manager, our new city manager, and new public works director that we are never going to miss again, that we are going to be on top of those deadlines. And I think that by virtue of getting back on the Tree City USA, it is a rigorous process.
Yeah.
And you've got to you got to get the data together, and you got to give it attention, right?
Yeah, and you got to there's certain you have to do certain things for an Arbor Day, and it's not just how many trees you have, but it's how many trees you have plus all the little things that are done to make it happen.
If you're thinking about all the things that you have to think about in order to get the designation, you're not going to miss deadlines, and and I think that's a good first start to be aware of what's going on. I mean, I think again, it was a luxury to have an arborist as the public works director,
right?
And we'll see to what extent you need to have an arborist. Maybe you can just have them on retainer, but I mean, you can't be missing deadlines. You have to be. We have to be a Tree City USA.
Yes.
That has to be kind of at the core.
It's in our DNA.
People come in here to walk within underneath our tree canopy.
Right.
We have to preserve that. That preservation is key when it comes to that.
And to be clear, so audience members that may be watching this and not sure what happened, it sounds like this was an administrative issue with a previous employee, if I understand it correctly.
I mean,
I don't want to bad talk anybody, but just so that people understand kind of what happened.
Listen. Everybody's responsible.
Yes.
From the council on down.
Yeah.
Okay. Again, if you're missing the deadlines,
Yeah.
then you're not focusing enough on that as an issue, and
Right.
and maybe we needed to make more of a look. That's why I went and I got after it, because I want that's something that's important to me. That's why I did all that, because I want to be clear. So I think it's really important, and that's something that I've been assured is also going to be with a positive trajectory going forward, and we're not gonna miss any more deadline. We're gonna be a Tree City USA, and we're gonna really invest in our tree canopy.
All right. So as I'm sure you've been talking to lots of folks, and I'm sure your phone rings off the hook, and people trying to get your ear and say, hey, what do you think about this, and what do you think about that, and get your perspective on certain issues. What are you hearing are some of the big issues from residents?
People complain about the traffic, right? I mentioned that a second ago. I think also for those that grew up here, right? We didn't always have. You've lived here. How many years have you lived here, Nestor?
I've been part of the community since I was a kid, but living here since 1989.
Okay, so we didn't always have a walking path along Ludlam, or a walking path going down Westward, or a walking path going down North Royal. Right? So I got a lot of people tell me I walk in the morning down Ludlam. People, these people that cut through traffic, those people are speeding so much they don't respect our city. Right. Which funny thing that I found out is that whenever we do traffic enforcement, you get 80% residents and not really the cut through traffic. But it's possible that there is more speeding. There's more cars for sure from when we were kids. But it could also be true that there's more people next to the thoroughfares and they're noticing the speeding. So I know that one thing that's going to help the speeding is that we have cameras that are going to be giving speeding tickets now in the school zones.
That's huge.
During school hours.
Right.
So that will slow people down in those areas.
Right.
So that'll help. And I also think that there's been some more active policing. I think that again, the police department has really been doubling down and trying to enforce, definitely on Hook Square.
Right.
The people blocking the box, and so
that's visible almost every afternoon. You can see them there enforcing that.
You have to do it. So.
So another area that recently got an upgrade is near AIE. On East Drive, where there's now a little traffic circle kind of give the traffic calming. What are your thoughts on adding some additional traffic calming to other areas of Miami Springs?
Yeah, and I know that you talked about that with Councilman Best, my opponent. So you got to remember, right? County roads, they can do whatever they want, right? And it seems like it's the north-south roads are the county roads. I remember when I ran for council in 2020. I remember that was so right before the pandemic. That's when they did the county did the adjustments to the circle. Right. And I remember that the city reached out when we heard about it. The city reached out to the county and said, "Hey, can you come and do a presentation for the council of what you're going to be doing on the circle?"
Right.
And the county said, "We don't have to do presentations for the city. Here's the site plan of what we're going to do." And it said, and I saw the site plan. It said, I think I have a copy of it still. It said traffic calming on it. That's what it was meant to do. But they do. It's their road. Right. So putting speed bumps and doing things like that. It's if it's a county road, it's They kind of like to do it their way,
right?
But it doesn't mean we can't ask, but it's not that easy when it's a county road.
And it feels like our representation at the county level, meaning our commissioner, let's call it, that role in terms of helping us with things like traffic calming or the circle is incredibly important. That residents should be aware that, hey, that county commissioner represents us is incredibly important, and that relationship is incredibly important long term. I understand our current county commissioner looks like he's moving up to become ambassador, so it looks like there's going to be an opening there. Right. So whoever that next replacement is important to have a strong relationship with whoever that is, and hopefully someone that has our interests, our best interests in their heart. Let's put it that way.
No doubt. I mean, I know that. In watching the video, the conversation that you had with my opponent, they brought up annexation. I think we're all in the people, we're all in the relationship business. Right. You have to have relationships with the elected officials that represent you, with your county commissioner, with your state representative, with your state senator. You have to have those relationships. And at the county, the state is always preempting local government,
Yep.
Local
local,
government decision making.
yeah.
The county preempts, the municipalities making decisions in a lot of cases. So you have to have open lines of communication with those people.
Yeah. What else? Going back to the residents and conversations you had, anything else that you're hearing from residents that, aside from traffic, that have been some big issues for them?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously 36th Street is one. So like so I know because there were a couple of things that I feel like I want to clarify from the conversation that you had with
go ahead.
my opponent, because some things came up. So like annexation was one of them, but since you mentioned it, you asked about the aviation department properties, those four lots. Remember?
So to be clear, to the audience, there's a proposal that came up a few months ago that there's a couple of empty lots on the east side of Springs that's owned by Miami International Airport or Miami-Dade Aviation.
Miami-Dade Aviation.
And those are currently like these parking lots that are fenced in, and pretty much nothing's been happening there for years. And all of a sudden we had a proposal for like these 3 mega towers, 10 stories high, residential.
Yes.
And it's like, holy cow, it's going to be like a third or a quarter of our, adds to our population overnight. Yeah. And, tell us a little bit more about that. I just want to get the context to the audience so they know what we're talking about.
That spooked a lot of people.
Yeah,
I literally had people who stopped me at the farmer's market and were like, hey, if we need to, we'll chain ourselves to a bulldozer, right? I was like, I don't think that's necessary.
Yeah.
I mean, that wasn't a very realistic proposal that was put in. I know that it was reported,
right.
And then you reported it on your website,
right?
And you actually it was after a meeting, and you quoted me saying, talking about that, like if you're not at the table in situations like that, you could be on the menu.
Yes,
and have a seat at the table. And during that meeting, we actually reported that project wasn't even being considered anymore.
Right.
And maybe you logged off before that, but you
you
went with it, and it probably got you a lot of clicks, and a lot of people
there was a lot
out
of
their tiki torches and
started
going bananas.
Let's put it this way: there's a lot of when those projects kind of pop up, there's a lot of doubt that when things are really dead, are they really dead, and are they going to come up again? And
I got you.
There's a lot of concern there.
So listen. Here's the deal. There's 4 properties, right? One of them is where the Airbus Training Center is.
Yeah.
That one is there. We don't get any property tax off that. Like that is between them and the aviation department, Dade County Aviation. The other are 3 lots, and those lots are theirs, and the county can do pretty much anything that they want to do there. It's not uncommon for county commissioners on the commission to get some properties in the name of addressing the housing crisis.
Right.
Monetizing those, or they're open to proposals. Right. But I think so. One of the things in the conversation that you had with Councilman Best, you said that, and he was saying that our current commissioner kind of made a mistake, didn't support us in that. Right. But I think that overlooks that the outgoing commission that had Rebecca Sosa as our county commissioner, they voted against our annexation. Right, so it's not just so they rejected it, and then there was a whole time. Then they were running an election and we were like, well, we're going to have to see who the next person is. Right. I don't think it helped. So I don't think this is the only. Let's start with first. Right, it wasn't just our current county commissioner. Right. That didn't come through for us. It was the previous outgoing commission when Rebecca Sosa was there that voted against it. And you know that.
Yeah.
Right.
But that was the commission. Our commissioner Rebecca was championing.
She was right, but we didn't. It didn't get approved. So
Correct.
We needed the new person to come and now take this on. Right. And I think that there were 3 members of the council that endorsed the opponent of our current commissioner. Right. And listen, you can endorse people. That's fine. But I think the Councilman Best at a meeting, the opponent, Kevin Cabrera's opponent, came to speak, and he publicly endorsed him from the dais at a council meeting. Right. And I feel like that's unwise because then person doesn't, the person that you're endorsing publicly like that
Yeah.
doesn't win, and then you have a current commissioner, and
Yeah.
then like, hey, help us out with annexation that just died, right?
Right.
But listen, that's not the reason that it didn't go down, right?
Right.
Like the other thing that I think is important is that people need to understand that the people in the annexation area, right? It's from Milam Dairy Road to the Palmetto between 36th Street and 58th,
Yeah.
right? And that was the annexation area, and all of those businesses, right?
Yeah.
They're right now paying the UMSA county millage rate, which is 1.9.
Right.
Right. And ours is 6.38.
Right.
Right. So we're like, oh yeah, we're going to annex you, and we'll get our millage rate to under 5. And well, so like every one of those if you're a business owner there, if you really think about it,
Yeah.
if you're a business owner there, at least $1 million per
they're gonna
property
be,
there.
they're, I'm sure residents
So I'm going to
here-
go from 1.9 to just under 5.
Yeah.
No, thank you. That's
Right.
a lot. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't think that, and I think you could have done more, Nestor, during that time. I don't feel like when there was a lot of uncertainty about what was going to happen with whoever was coming in.
Right.
Right. And it looked like they were getting lobbied up over there, and they were putting pressure. I feel like you could have done more. I feel like you sat on the sidelines a little bit in terms of drumming up support. But we could agree to
We could debate this back and forth.
with that. But they didn't want it. And then the third and underlying thing, which is actually pardon me, trumps everything, is that apparently through that conversation, and also from what I read in the Gazette, in the last Gazette, I don't think that my opponent knows that the county commission just voted to put a 5-year moratorium on annexation.
Right.
Because he wrote in the Gazette like, this isn't, ladies and gentlemen, this isn't dead. And in the video with you, and you didn't catch him on it. You didn't say anything. You know that they just voted 11-1 to put a 5-year moratorium. So the point is moot. I mean, it may not be dead, but it's in a coma, at least for now.
Right.
So, and my opponent said in the video that like that's one of 2 gold mines for the city, like annexation, and he said the bed tax.
Right.
But that, I don't think that there's more to it than that. And
Right.
I think that annexation, at least for now, we've got that's not a priority. Well, we can't. There's a moratorium for 5 years.
Right. So, that was a mouthful.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. And generally speaking, I like to, ask the questions, and like I tell people, guys, we're not doing 2020. I'm not going back and forth. So I let you guys.
I'm gonna go back and forth with you.
No, it's okay.
You're very
it's okay.
knowledgeable.
It's okay.
You've been reporting on this. You and I are gonna engage.
I appreciate it. But mainly, what we're trying to do is let the audience get to know where you stand, and I think you're doing a great job in terms of explaining where you stand. Obviously, I'm not running for anything, so my positions and what I'm thinking about is different. But I appreciate it because this is exactly what we want people to know. Hey, there's a big decision to make happen. The big kind of I talked about the heavyweight fight here is you and Bob, 2 well-known council members. You guys have both been here in Springs for a long time, and this is, as people make this decision, what you're sharing right now is important in terms of understanding what's the difference between one candidate and the other, who stands for what, and their grasp and awareness of certain topics like you're just addressing. So
Right.
I definitely appreciate it. And
So let me clarify a couple of things since I'm on because I just last night I watched the video of the former councilman and you talking to him.
Yeah.
Something else that came up those, and we started talking about it, those in terms of those properties on there. He mentioned that it had been discovered the reason we thwarted that development that was going to happen there.
Right.
Is that it had been discovered that you can't have any buildings over 4 stories, and that I don't know where that's coming from.
now, okay, let me jump in because I did bump up with
Okay,
we got hotels.
All right, so hold on. So the EB is 6 stories.
Yeah.
The EB, right?
Well, the new hotel.
Well, hold on.
Yeah.
So the EB is 6,
Right.
And then the Comfort Suites, it's just past East Drive, is 7,
Right.
And then the B&B Hotel, the Wyndham Garden that's next
Wyndham,
to
yeah.
the Wyndham Garden that's next to the McDonald's is also 7. The B&B Hotel, which is where the IHOP is,
Right.
is 7, and the Clarion has 2 buildings, one with 11 and one with 7.
Yeah.
So I don't know where he's getting that from. I don't know if he's confused because there's So we do have, as part of our charter,
Right.
there is a, you know this, you know, what?
I'm not sure which
Okay, all right.
you
So-
haven't said it yet, so I'm not
but
sure where you're going.
There's a height restriction for anything residential of 3 stories.
Right.
You know this,
Yes, yes,
throughout
yes.
the city.
Correct.
And it's in our charter.
But the
It was
live
voted
local-
on.
but the live
Hold
local
on,
can
hold on, hold
bypass.
on. We'll get to live local,
Yeah.
right? So there's, throughout the city, there's a 3-story, because I'm wondering where he's getting this 4-story thing.
Yeah.
Right? Because we have, the Clarion has like 11.
Uh-huh.
Right? So there's for anything residential, and a hotel isn't residential,
Right.
anything residential has a 3-story. That's why the town center in the CBD,
Right.
in the overlay district, is only 3 stories,
Right.
because you can't build. Now, live local is a state law, preemptive law, that allows a development, so long as it addresses, if it has workforce housing, rent controlled housing,
Right.
in 40% of the units, then they can exceed the density and the height restrictions in a municipality.
Right.
So they can go above, right, if you use so. Now, maybe that's part of his confusion, because when it comes to live local,
Right.
there is a 1/4 mile from the runway, right? Because he was saying that you can't have 4 stories and more within a 1/4 mile of the runway, and that's
Right, right.
not what it is. Within a 1/4 mile of the runway, we are exempt based on the last amendment from last year of Live Local. We're exempt from having Live Local within it. So along 36th Street there,
Right.
you can't have Live Local. Right,
Got it.
and there's a lot of people that you know, because it's a bugaboo, the workforce housing and that, and so we're exempt along 36th Street,
Okay.
and that's the 1/4 mile. Maybe that's
Right.
what he's getting that at.
Got it. So is that, just to be clear, in terms of what, do we have protections from someone else coming up with a new plan?
So here's the thing.
Yeah,
Now that's Live Local. That's the state preemptive law.
right.
Those 3 empty lots of the counties.
Yeah,
The county can use the rapid transit zone, the RTZ. They can expand. They've done this in other places in the county.
Right.
They can expand the rapid transit zone, which
Yeah.
is because of proximity to mass transit. You have the
the airport's
transit
right
lines,
there.
and you have the intermodal.
Right.
And you could expand the rapid transit zone, and then as within the rapid transit zone, they can do something.
Mm-hmm.
They can develop something that exceeds your density and that exceeds your height restrictions. And that has nothing to do with Live Local. They're not exempt from anything along 30. They can do whatever they want, and it's their properties.
Right.
Right. So that's why it's important for us to have good relations and to have a seat at the table and to have a vision about what we want on 36th Street,
Right.
so that we could say, when a crazy project like that one came in, and say, hey, this doesn't fit in the vision of what we want here.
so it sounds like what we need to do is get our vision for that area to become reality. So
You read my mind.
I don't want to lead the witness here, but if in terms of future plans, I know a lot is going into the Abraham Tract. This is just west of the Abraham Tract. So tell us a little bit. We haven't really talked about that. Tell us a little bit about the Abraham Tract and some of the ideas of things that are
Sure.
to,
So
to
the
plan that
Abraham,
area.
so everybody knows about Freedom Park, which is the stadium that's going where the golf course used to be. That's going to be a community that has everything, that has residential and mixed use and shops and the stores and it's gonna be its own community, and that's going to be that's going to increase the value of all these areas that are just east of it and north of it. And hopefully that will, and we have 5 hotels on the Abraham Tract, and I certainly hope that brings more business to them. We don't get the bed tax. That's
Right.
another thing that I want to clarify from the video, is the bed tax. But when it comes to the Abraham Tract, right now that's being leased by the Abraham Corporation.
Right.
But I think that now that is more in the flight path, not like to the side of the flight path.
Right.
So it has a lot of restrictions. So really, it's going to be mostly industrial. Like, it literally has height restrictions. Like within a certain area, it can be this many stories, and then with another, it can be a little bit more.
Right.
And that because it's in the flight path.
Right.
But hopefully down the line, some type of industrial park or something like that. I think will
be helpful there.
Yeah.
If you had a magic wand and you could, do something there with those empty parking lots on the east side of Springs, what would be your goal to get accomplished there to prevent then future development to come in by having something already in place?
I mean, but they can. The point is, let's talk about what we want to do. I mean,
Yeah.
that's not even a hypothetical. But I mean, look, again, I think that if we have a good vision, so we've got great partners, and we got the Miami Realtors are wonderful community partners. Miami Regional University is there. That's off of 36th Street.
Right.
That's commercial. But right now, when it comes to 36th Street, you have what you attract.
Right.
We attract hotels because hotels can go up to 12 stories.
Right.
We're not attracting any mixed use because they can't go over 3 stories.
Right.
And right on 36th Street, that's an interesting area, and that's something that we're going to be looking at with this new council when I become mayor. We're going to look at 36th Street, in terms of, we need to do a real analysis and a public debate about what we want. There's always going to be a question about, density versus, like how much density do you want? But what do you want to do to promote development and economic development and having it flourish rather than be dilapidated? So we got to have a public debate about it to see what we want our vision to be, because it's tricky.
Yeah. No doubt,
So
go ahead.
Let me tell you about, because I brought up the bed tax. So my opponent said that those are in the video. He said that those are the 2 gold mines: annexation and the bed tax. And I've heard other candidates. Everybody's chiming in on like, well, we got to go after the bed tax.
Right.
And I think that shows a very unnuanced understanding about how that works.
Right.
So the tourist development tax is assessed by the state, and it is given in Dade County to the Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau. And so they get it, and to the tune of like hundreds of millions of dollars, I might add. And for our particular city, I remember a couple of years ago it was like 3.8. I think it's closer to 5 million. And we don't get any of that bed tax. But people don't understand, because I have residents.
So the Greater Miami Convention Visitors Bureau gets close to $5 million.
It's got to be. It was 3.8 back in 2021.
Wow.
And it's gone up. And so the thing is, we don't get any of the bed tax, right?
Right. But we got to pay for all the cops, and all the resources to support them. 40%
of our police calls go there.
Yeah.
But in terms of getting the bed tax, what you need to there are certain things that you can create a tax for. So our taxing authority as a city is controlled by the state and approved and limited by the state.
Yeah.
When it comes to a tourist tax, we are expressly prohibited from adding a tax. I have people that want to just add another tax if they don't want to share that bed tax.
Right.
And you cannot. There's only 3 municipalities, Surfside, Bal Harbor, and Miami Beach, who got grandfathered in because they already had a tourist tax.
Wasn't City of Miami also grandfathered?
No.
Okay, so I got that wrong.
Just 3. City of Miami actually gets a little cut when you see where all the money goes as it gets dispersed.
Right.
You see that they get a cut. Listen, nothing against the Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau. They bring in big events, like we're getting FIFA here.
Yeah.
Like that's important. But in terms of getting a share, because here's the problem, is that get a share of that tax. That is a state tax. That means that you have to convince the state to give a share to everybody in the state.
Right.
And not every county does the same thing with the money. They don't have a visitors bureau. So different counties do different things.
Right.
And it's hard to aggregate all the money that municipalities could be getting in order to kind of lobby to get a share of it. Right. And I think also, not only does it show like an unnuanced understanding of how it works, I think that it also dismisses a lot of the work that's happened. Brian Avila, at the time, was he's our current state senator, but at the time he was our state rep. And he held up several sessions advocating for us to get a share, and it actually passed in that. And he was one of 120.
Right.
And he got it to pass in the House. And at the time, Manny Diaz was our state senator.
Right.
And it died in the Senate.
Yeah.
But we've been trying to get a share of it, but it's an uphill
battle.
Not that easy.
Yeah,
it's just, and I got news for you, right? When you have organizations that are receiving this tax money in the district, they tend to not want to share it, and they tend to lobby against you.
Yes, they tend to fight hard.
They tend to push back for why it's important for them not to have to share it.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, it's just bringing that up, that it's not just as easy as we'll just get the bed tax. And look, and Maria Mitchell was instrumental. She worked so hard. She presented to the Miami-Dade County League of Cities. She served on like advisory boards for the Florida League of Cities to try to get, but it's not easy to get, to get the consensus to really lobby, because you need to get your representatives behind it. So it's not easy.
And I'm assuming it's easy to say that you would, by all means, support that effort if Brian or another Rizzo, who's our current representative, were to fight for this.
Of course,
that you'd support them.
Of course. And listen, we have conversations. You have to have relationships with these people, and they have to advocate for you. But they have to decide. They use their judgment of what to carry. Like Brian Avila. And with the efforts of Maria Mitchell, with the efforts of Brian Avila carried it really far.
He passed it through the House.
He got it passed through the House. Yeah. But it's just you need a lot of people statewide to want to get behind it. And it's hard to kind of build the consensus for the reasons that I discussed.
And the other thing is, other municipalities don't have the share of hotels that we do.
Right. So like Doral has lots of hotels, and they're missing out. But what they're missing out on, in the grand scheme of things of what their budget is and what so everybody, other cities may be getting a cut. They could use $3.8 million. Right. But they have such a diverse tax base that it's not all the police calls how they have to service the hotels doesn't have the impact to their city as it does to ours. So it's a tricky one. But getting back to the point, we attract, we allow. We allow right along 36th Street, which is at the heart of it all, as our motto says, right? You could be anywhere in the county in 30 minutes. It's a great location. We can allow 12 stories of hotels, but you can only allow 3 stories of anything that is residential. Whether it's mixed use or anything, it doesn't allow it. And so it's hard to get commercial right there on 36th Street. It's also hard to do like a single footprint thing, like a Long John's, a Longhorn Steakhouse or like a CVS. It's very valuable property that's located in a great place, but the way you have to assemble it in order for it, and it's extremely valuable. It's extremely expensive. So it's something that we need to talk about. All of these issues are kind of intertwined.
Let me ask you, and because it feels like we have 2 choices, and I want to ask if we have a third choice or not. It feels like we have the choice between hotels or apartment / mixed use development. Is there an opportunity to have let's say, office?
The thing is, you got to think of it in terms. You got to think of it in terms of density, right? Like the height restriction. If you have, they work together, right? If you have low density, right, you could lift the height restriction all you want. Like you can't have a lot of density, so unless they're standing on each other's shoulders, right? And then so you have to think in terms of density. Look, in the past, people have been anti-density. They want single-family homes. They don't want more apartments. There are some people that are. I talking to a lot of people as part of this campaign. There are people that are like, look, we don't want more apartments. Like even if it's not rent controlled, even if it's not live local, that's fine. If you have an apartment, they're going to be splitting it up. There's going to be 2 families living in there. There's people.
How's that different from our residential houses?
Right. No, and it's happening in single-family residential too, right? So I get that. I'm here for that. And listen. I'm 2 blocks off of East Drive and 2 blocks off of 36th Street, right? So I am the easternmost
you
person
feel what's happening there,
on the council. And I get it. There's a downside to density, right? It means like more traffic. In the past, it would be don't overcrowd our schools, but our schools could probably use a little more enrollment these days. But I understand that there's downsides to density, but there's also downside to only having a transient community along that area because you don't have a sense of community because. you have just hotels and people that if they see a crime, they may look the other way and like, why get involved?
Right.
And then a lot is riding on these, how effective the security and the management is in all of these hotels,
right,
and how much they charge and what kind of clientele they're getting. Yeah. It's tricky. It's tricky. And that's part of the debate that we have to have. And we've done an analysis. We're gonna present it to the city, in terms of a workshop, right, and we're gonna educate the public and have the public debate and see what they think, because it is a knotty issue.
Is there any opportunity, for example, take a CVS example. I don't think we're ever going to see a standalone one-story, like a CVS or Walgreens along 36th Street. But
I've talked to developers,
yeah,
and told them, hey, how come you can't get the town center and put it on 36th Street, right?
Right.
Like, I don't know. That's not my world. I'm
right.
a school principal, right?
Right. Right.
And what I've been told is, like, along 36th Street, right? Like, think of those properties. Think of like where G5 is at. Like those properties are really narrow,
yeah,
right? And but where they're located, they're so valuable because of the location,
right?
Right. So in order to do something there, you kind of have to assemble some properties, and you got to go up. And by the time you provide your own parking, because it's narrow, right? By the time you provide your own parking, like, I've had people tell me, like, even if it was 6 stories, it may not be worth the value. And so that's kind of like why we're stuck, right? And we're in this kind of we have what we attract, basically.
So let me ask you, if say someone wanted to make a commercial endeavor that is a mixed office space / retail commercial, so something with like you got offices upstairs, and then maybe a CVS with a parking garage, etc. Is that even feasible?
The thing is that I don't know that office, because, like, look at Miami Realtors, right?
Yeah.
Like, but they're not on 36th Street.
Right.
They're off of 36th Street.
They're off 36th Street.
That's
they did a beautiful building
there. I don't, and then some, listen, people that are in the development world, it's like it's a numbers game, right? Like, do you put like a Shoma Bazaar? Do you put like a bunch of? But like, is there the density there for that?
Right.
Is there the necessity? Is it just a bunch of commercial and like single family homes and like so? I don't know. I mean, everything has to be explored. We had an economic analysis done, and this new incoming council, God willing, I will be the mayor, and we will have a new council, and we're gonna just present to the city, and then let's just have a public debate. I think that then we're talking about it, right?
Yeah.
So like,
look, this is the main thing. Have a discussion, share different points of view, different ideas. And put more ideas in the sunshine, and let people, allow additional feedback and have more conversations on these topics. And one of the reasons I'm grateful that every candidate participated in these interviews, yourself included, and so I really appreciate this, Walter. But sharing ideas and vision and thoughts, and looking at the problems, and you're doing a great job in terms of sharing. Look, we got these different options, and there's no like magic wand, right? And you hit it. We got, there's this option, and here's the good and the bad, and here's this option, here's the good and the bad.
Everybody inherits their present reality, right? We have to make sure we agree on the reality, but everybody inherits what previous councils. It's about stewardship, right? Like it doesn't matter what mistakes were done in the past. Right now, it's in your charge, and you have to, it was before I was on the council, right? There was a spirited debate about the town center. But at this point, it doesn't matter. We're going to make it work. And I was saying that, like, a distinction between myself and the things that were mentioned by my opponent in the video and as part of his platform, is that whether or not there's this debate about, do we have a parking problem or do we not have a parking problem? Do we have enough space? We may have enough spaces. We just have a parking accessibility, but it doesn't matter, because it's not a pejorative to say we have a parking problem. Right. We've discussed this. I've said it on the dais numerous times. Like, we better hope we get a parking problem, because if we don't have a parking problem, that means that all those storefronts in the central business district, in the town center, are not open. Like, when all those restaurants and everything gets up and running, we'll deal with the parking problem, right? I think that right now it's about parking enforcement, like particularly in front of those storefronts.
Right.
Once those restaurants start going online, I hear Juan Valdez just opened.
Yeah.
I don't know when the acai bowl place next to the vet is going to open. But once those get up and running, those employees can't park for 6-8 hours in front of a storefront. You got to move those.
Yeah.
So we have the 3-hour limits, and then police is doing parking enforcement. But it's about stewardship of the city. You inherit something, trying to make it better. Like I started off, you don't have to be sick to get better.
Yeah.
Miami Springs can be phenomenal. Miami Springs is phenomenal. Yeah. Miami Springs is great, and you have to preserve the springs. I grew up here. I understand the tree canopy. Like we want this to stay. We want to have the river cities. Right. We want to have those things for our kids. We want to preserve that. But preservation doesn't mean doing nothing. We have to understand our place in this economic system of Dade County that we live in. We need to have good relations with our county commissioner, with our state rep, with our state with our federal representatives, who I went up and visited a month and a half ago up in Washington. I think that those things are important, and we need to think about how we best position ourselves for the future.
Right.
Preserve, but have the kind of sensible development that will make us better for the future, for sure.
All right. Well, Walter, I definitely appreciate that. Is there anything, as we're going along, that you haven't shared, that you wanted to share with the community, that we haven't touched upon yet?
Yeah. So one last thing.
Yeah.
Because in watching the video, I think it was suggested that in terms of taxes, that somebody's been saying that they've lowered. I just wanted to be clear, so there isn't confusion about what my statement is, that every year that I've been on the council, right, I have fought to lower the taxes. I'd like to explain the story of how that actually works. Right. I started in 2020. They had already finished the budget. 2021. I suggested that we lower the millage rate. So the way it used to work is we have a reserve of funds, and the Government Finance Officers Association recommends 15% of reserves, 15% of your annual expenditures. And we as a city had it codified in ordinance. We want to do 25 so that we're over. Mm-hmm. And at that time in 2021, 22, we had an overage over that of $1.2 million. And so I was, during my first budget process, I was like, can we take some of that overage of the very conservative reserves that we have and put it towards the millage rate to lower the millage? Because I think that's an important thing. And so we lowered it in 21, we lowered it again in 22. And as a matter of fact, if you go on MiamiSprings.com, you have an article that you posted September 13th of 2022 where you wrote, council approves to lower the millage rate in a 3-2 split vote. Right. And in that article, it's interesting to see who did and didn't vote to lower the millage rate. So it was lowered in 21.
I'll have to look at that one.
It was lowered in 22, right? Yeah. And then in 23, that was the year, it was after the storms on the West Coast, and the insurance costs, we had and we had the transition of city managers. We had like a $700,000 shortfall. We took it out of that overage that we had still to the conservative reserves. And then we did a few things. We gave a cost of living increase to staff. Right. We got a police officer. We did some things for police. Right. We did a couple things off the wish list. And then so we took up a lot of that overage. There was a little bit of overage over that 25% reserve. Right. And I said, hey, we should lower the millage rate, because we have that little bit. And people started to say, no, we should raise it. We shouldn't have those razor thin margins. Right. Just lowering the millage rate is by a little bit is insignificant. And I was like, but is raising taxes going to be really significant? We're going to get a lot more for raising tax. So we actually lost. Maria and I were the only two on the council in 2023 that voted no. And on a 3-2 vote, they voted to raise the millage. You know this, investor. They voted to raise the millage to the cap instead of lower it. And the next week, we find out that you needed to have a 4-1 majority in order to raise it to the cap. So we came back and we debated it again. Yeah. And we finally got a compromise to leave the millage rate the same in 2023 rather than raise it. And then in 2024, last year, sure, going into an election year,
Yeah.
we lower it, right?
Right.
Which is fine. But I have always fight, and I'll always continue to fight because, in the video, my opponent says that only 12% of your total tax bill is Miami Springs. And I don't know where he's getting that number, because if you go to your tax bill and you do the math, it's like high 20s, like 28, almost 30%. And that's before you pay for trash.
Right.
Okay, I don't think that we should dismiss our millage rate. We have one of the higher millage rates, right? And this is a great town, but we need to lower it, because if you bought a house in 1982 and it's your homestead, okay, compared to somebody that bought it in 2020, because first of all, what happens every year, and you make this point all the time, right? Your taxes are going up anyways, because our property values are going, your assessment's going up.
Oh yeah.
Right? So even if you lower the millage rate, like we need to lower it because they're already paying more. Right? So you're already paying more. So I mean, I think that it's 30%. Right, so it's not insignificant, and some people pay a lot more, and I feel like the government has a track record of always spending your money,
right?
All the money you give them. I mean, we balance budget, we do good, well financially, but I think that we should always try to pay it back for the taxpayers, because I think that's important.
Well, Walter, we really appreciate
absolutely, buddy,
you sharing that with us. So, residents who want to learn more about you, where can they go and learn more?
WalterFajet.com. WalterFajet.com.
WalterFajet.com.
Platforms on there.
And when's election day?
All right, so this week, the 28th and 29th, which is Friday and Saturday, at City Hall from 8 to 4. That's where you can go and do early voting. And then Tuesday, April 1st, is Election Day. And that will be from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. at the Country Club. So I would really like to see everybody go out there. Let's all vote. I think that we have a decision to make about the leadership of our community. I think that I'm a good communicator. I think that I'll represent the city well. I think that I know the issues. I think that I'm a sensible leader, and I think that I seek consensus and will help us move forward and continue this positive trajectory that we have in our city.
All right. So, and who do you want people to vote for mayor come election day?
Well, obviously, I think I'm the best candidate. Like I like to say, my opponent's last name notwithstanding. Obviously, vote for Walter Fajet for mayor. Yep.
Perfect. All right, folks. I hope everybody's enjoyed these videos. Watch them, get informed, and then get out and vote. Either early voting this weekend, Friday and Saturday at City Hall, or on Tuesday, Election Day, April 1st. It's not an April Fool's joke. It is Election Day. It's April 1st at the Country Club. Thank you, Walter. Really appreciate you make yourself available. We really mean this. We really appreciate this.
Appreciate you.
And thank everybody for watching this, and wish you the best of luck.
All right. Thank you, man.
Thank you.